afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. You're watching Updates at Noon with me, Nur Zamri. Our top stories today: no official discussions on seat distribution between PH and BN for elections. Government focusing on efforts to reduce prices of raw materials. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim said Pakatan Harapan PH has yet to officially hold talks with Barisan Nasional BN on the distribution of seats to be contested by both parties during the 6 state elections. However, the Premier, who is also the PH chairman, said there are no restrictions for party leaders in the state to hold talks and discussions with BN state leaders with regard to the matter.
Belum, dari segi secara rasminya belum, walaupun saya tidak menghalang pimpinan di peringkat negeri mengadakan perbincangan, tapi secara rasmi itu belum dimulakan.
Datuk Seri Anwar was asked if PH and BN had discussed the distribution of seats for the state elections in 6 states, namely Kedah, Pulau Pinang, Selangor Negeri Sembilan, Terengganu and Kelantan. Recently, PKR Deputy President Rafizi Ramli was reported as saying that PH had started discussions with BN on the collaboration between both parties for the coming state elections unofficially. The state elections will be held in Selangor, Pulau Pinang, Negeri Sembilan, Kedah, Kelantan and Terengganu. Meanwhile, Datuk Seri Anwar said he would not interfere in the affairs of PAS since the party had declared that it would decide the date for the dissolution of the State Assembly of 3 states under its rule, namely Kedah, Terengganu and Kelantan. PAS President Tan Sri Abdul Hadi Awang was reported as saying PAS would decide on a suitable date to dissolve the state assemblies of Kedah, Terengganu and Kelantan. On another note, Datuk Seri Anwar said the government is indeed focusing on finding a solution to lower the price of raw materials. He said this included ensuring sufficient production as well as supporting domestic producers of egg, chicken and vegetable products. Datuk Seri Anwar was commenting on a statement by former Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob, who called on the government to find solution to lower the price of raw materials. He noted that in the short time since he was appointed as Prime Minister, the presence of international investors from Europe, China and United States and Malaysia was much more encouraging than in previous years. The Prime Minister added that with this confidence, the ringgit has strengthened. And if country's currency falls, this will lead to high import costs and an increase in the price of goods. And when the price of goods increases, including the price of food, this will be a burden to the people. Meanwhile, Datuk Seri Anwar said Budget 2023, to be retabled on 24th of February, will touch upon digitalisation and modern agriculture sectors in an effort to ensure the country's economy remains sustainable. Malaysia has urged the international community to work together to combat Islamophobia and promote harmonious relations and peaceful coexistence among people of different faith in a diverse global community. Foreign Minister Datuk Seri Dr. Zamri Abdul Kadir said Malaysia will continue to work closely with fellow members of the international community to prevent and eliminate all forms of violence and hatred against Islam, including Islamophobic sentiments and extremism. He said this in response to the Islamophobic act by an extremist Swedish-Danish far-right politician Rasmus Paludan in burning a copy of the Holy Book of Quran in Stockholm, Sweden recently, which Malaysia condemns to strongest terms. Datuk Seri Zamri urged the Swedish government to take immediate action against the perpetrators of this heinous crime and to undertake serious measures to combat the worrisome rise of Islamophobia in the country. He said the Swedish government's ignorance to stop this dreadful and wicked act, despite several protests from various parties, is utterly unacceptable and could have serious repercussions on relations between Sweden and Muslims around the world. The minister further urged the Swedish government to take immediate action against the perpetrators of this heinous crime and to undertake serious measures to combat the worrisome rise of Islamophobia in Sweden. Rasmus Paludan, leader of the Danish far-right party Islamophobia hotline, was permitted to burn the Quran outside the Turkish embassy in Stockholm, causing the Muslim world to erupt in anger due to the incident. The Tourism, Arts and Culture Ministry has called for an increase in the number of immigration counter staffs and ramping up the use of facial recognition to improve immigration screening procedure at the Kuala Lumpur International Airport, KLIA. Its Minister Datuk Sri Tiong King Sing said this was important to overcome the problem of long waiting time following the increasing number of tourists coming into Malaysia. Elaborating further through a statement released, Datuk Sri Tiong said the facial recognition system used by the Immigration Department should be extended to all international visitors and not limited to those holding long-term permits to facilitate the clearance process. He said if the country wants to welcome tourists and make Malaysia among the most preferred destination, this issue needs to be solved immediately. According to a statement, the Minister, on checking out the tourist arrival process at KLIA, found that tourists had to queue and were made to wait, some for almost 2 hours, for the immigration check-in process. In addition, he also proposed that KLIA authorities consider stationing multilingual staffs to make it easier for tourists when going through the inspection procedures. The Meteorological Department of Malaysia has issued a danger level continuous heavy rain warning for several districts in Johor and Sabah until Wednesday. According to a statement issued yesterday, the districts involved in Johor are Kluang, Mersing, Kulai, Kota Tinggi and Johor Bahru, while in Sabah, the affected districts are Sandakan, Telupit, Kinabatangan, Beluran and Sandakan, and Kudat, Pitas and Kudat. A severe level continuous heavy rain is also expected until Wednesday in Johor, Segamat, Batu Pahat and Pontian, Kuching, Serian, Samarahan, Batong, Sarike and Meradong, Mukah and Bintulu in Sarawak and Sabah's interior Tambunan, West Coast Tawau, Lahad Datu and Kudat, Kota Marudu. Meanwhile, Malaysia also issued a warning of continuous rain at the alert level within the same period for Pahang, Kuantan, Pekan and Rompin, Johor, Tangka and Muar, Sri Aman Sarike, Pakan and Julau, Sibu Bintulu, Tatau and Sabuah, and Miri, Subis Beluru, Miri and Marudi in Sarawak and Sandakan, Tongot in Sabah. In our foreign segment, Pakistan begins restoring power after second major group breakdown. Pakistan's government began restoring power to millions of people on Monday after a breakdown in the grid triggered the worst electricity outage in months and highlighted the weak infrastructure of the heavily indebted nation. An inquiry has been launched into the outage, which began at around 7 a.m. local time and has so far lasted more than 12 hours during the peak winter season. As evening drew on and homes were without electricity in the dark, Energy Minister Kuram Daske wrote on Twitter, the authorities had started restoring power across the country. The outage, which the minister had said was due to a voltage surge, is the second major grid failure in 3 months and adds to the blackouts that Pakistan's nearly 220 million people suffer on an almost daily basis. Power was beginning to return in parts of the capital Islamabad and the southwest province of Balochistan, as well as its largest city and economic hub, Karachi. Analysts and officials blame the power problems on an aging electricity network, which, like much more of the national infrastructure, desperately needs an upgrade that the government says it can ill afford. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has defended mega projects undertaken since he took power, saying they were not to blame for economic turmoil that has been seen the currency plummet and inflation accelerate. Since Sisi became president in 2014, Egypt has embarked on an infrastructure splurge spearheaded by the military that has included expansion of the Suez Canal, the construction of a new capital in the desert, and extensive road building. Critics have questioned why the government put tens of billions of dollars into the projects at a time when Egypt has struggled to contain its debt burden and provide public services such as health and education to a growing population. The Suez Canal underwent the first expansion in 2015 and is now being expanded again. Sisi also made reference to investments in the power grid early in his role, which resulted in the large power surplus. Police say officially falls on 25th of January, which is also the anniversary of the start of the Arab Spring uprising that toppled former President Hosni Mubarak in 2011. Sisi led the overthrow of Egypt's first democratically elected leader, Mohamed Morsi, 2 years later. He has blamed the 2011 uprising for destabilizing Egypt and hampering its economic development, and frequently blames recent economic turmoil on the impacts of Russia's war on Ukraine and other global factors. Protesters in Yemen, Iraq and Jordan demonstrated in their respective countries on Monday against a Holy Book of Quran burning incident in Sweden. The Quran burning was carried out by Rasmus Paludan, leader of Danish far-right political party Hotline, during a protest in Stockholm on Saturday against Turkey and against Sweden's bid to join NATO. Paludan, who is also a Swedish citizenship, has held a number of demonstrations in the past where he has burned the Holy Book of Quran. In the permit he obtained from police, he says his protest was held against Islam and what is called Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's attempt to influence freedom of expression in Sweden. In Jordan on Monday, protesters burned the Swedish flag in front of the embassy in response. Thousands of protesters rallied in the streets of Yemen, while demonstrators also gathered outside the Swedish consulate in the Iraqi capital, Baghdad. Swedish Foreign Minister Tobias Billström said the Islamophobic provocations were appalling. Billström said Sweden has a far-reaching freedom of expression, but it does not imply that the Swedish government or himself support the opinions expressed. Dozens of Palestinians have protested against threats made by top Israeli politicians to immediately carry out the forced displacement of Palestinian Bedouin village of Han al-Ahmar off the eastern outskirts of Jerusalem, home to at least 180 people. The protest took place on Monday after Israel far-right politician and Minister of National Security Itamar Ben-Gvir said he would push ahead with the village force removal. Ben-Gvir said the government of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will not hold Jews to one legal standard and Arabs to another after an illegal Jewish settlement to outposts in the northern occupied West Bank was cleared by Israeli occupation forces. However, Palestinians have decried what they argue is a false equivalency between Han al-Ahmar and Israeli settlements, which are illegal under international law. The faith of Han al-Ahmar was captured international attention for its years-long legal battle with Israeli authorities over its survival. In September 2018, the Israeli Supreme Court granted the village's removal, leaving it open, being demolished at any time, but demolition plans have been put on hold several times since then. American lawmakers on Monday voted unanimously to review ties with the European Parliament, accusing it of meddling after a resolution that urged the kingdom to respect press freedom. Members of both houses of America's parliament met in the capital Rabat for a joint session in response to the binding European text adopted last Thursday. In a statement after the session, the American legislators called the European resolution an unacceptable attack against the sovereignty, dignity and independence of judicial institutions in the kingdom. They said it has seriously harmed the fundamental trust between them As a result, Morocco's parliament decided to reconsider its relations with the European Parliament and submit them for an overall evaluation. Under the 1996 agreement, Morocco and the European Union have been linked in tight economic and commercial relations, particularly in agriculture and fishing. Last week, European parliamentarians also said they were deeply concerned by allegations that Moroccan authorities and bribe its members and reaffirmed European Parliament's commitment to fully investigating corruption. Prosecutors brought high treason charges against 5 people who allegedly planned to kidnap the German health minister and were prepared to kill in order to topple the German government. The prosecutor said the group formed in mid-January 2022 had set itself the goal of triggering civil war-like conditions in Germany by means of violence in the hope of overthrowing the government and parliamentary democracy. All 5 have been in custody since last year, when authorities first revealed the details of the alleged plot. According to prosecutors, the suspects, including one of the ringleaders, Elizabeth R., who is aligned with a circle of so-called rich citizens that deny the legal existence of the Federal Republic, had made increasingly concrete preparations. They also formed 2 separate branches of the group, one military and the other administrative. Germany's domestic intelligence agency attributes some 21,000 people to the Richburger, or citizens of the Rich movement, with around 5% of them seen as far-right extremists. According to report, some 2,100 Richburgers are prepared to use violence to reach their goals. Nigeria opened a $1 billion Chinese-built deep sea port in Lagos yesterday, which is expected to ease congestion at the country's ports and help it become an African hub for transshipment, handling cargoes in transit for other destinations. President Muhammadu Buhari has made building infrastructure a key pillar of his government's economic policy and hopes that this will help his ruling party win votes during next month's presidential election. The new Lekki Deep Sea Port is 75% owned by the China Harbour Engineering Company and Tolaram Group, with the balance shared between the Lagos State Government and the Nigerian Ports Authority. Chinese ambassador to Nigeria, Chu Zhenguan, told Reuters after the port was commissioned by Buhari that this is a transformative and a game-changer project which would create at least 200,000 jobs.
This project is invested by the leading shareholders in Chinese Harbour, and also including the Singapore and the federal and the Lagos state government. I think this is very, very good joint venture. And the third point I want to make is this project, why it's important. Nigeria, we have set a very good example to the international communities.
China is among the largest bilateral lenders to Nigeria and has funded rail, roads and power stations. It's never easy waking up in the morning after a heartbreaking defeat. The Speedy Tigers came within a whisker of qualifying for the World Cup quarterfinals, but luck was just not on their side in a tense shootout. With the quarterfinals out of sight, Malaysia will now play to claim number 9 among 16 teams. Holding world number 8 Spain to a 2-2 draw in regulation time and then 3-3 in a shootout was a fantastic moment for Coach Arul and his men, who entered the World Cup rank 11 but clawed their way to 9th after beating Chile and New Zealand with identical 3-2 scores. On Sunday, the defeat was so painful that Arul called his players one by one into his hotel room to encourage, praise and motivate his players again.
Kecewa tetap kecewa kerana kita kalah di peringkat shootout, tetapi players bermain mati-matian, mereka ditewaskan dengan maruah yang tinggi. Kita kena bangkit semula sebab kita kena menghabiskan Piala Dunia ini di klasifikasi 9 hingga 12 dan diharap semua di Malaysia memberi sokongan penuh untuk pemain-pemain kita untuk mencapai kedudukan yang terbaik untuk setakat ini, itu kedudukan nombor 9.
For the record, in the last World Cup, also held in Bhubaneswar, Malaysia ended up 15 among 16 teams. Novak Djokovic steamrolled local hope Alex de Minaur 6-2, 6-1, 6-2 on Monday to ease into the quarterfinals of the Australian Open with a statement win in his quest for a 10th title at the Grand Slam that has only been threatened by a hamstring issue. Djokovic drew first blood after a breathless start to go up 4-2, and the Serbian consolidated the break and struck again to claim the first set. Having never lost at Melbourne Park since the fourth round in 2018, the 35-year-old was in no mood to give de Minaur a sniff of chance on Rod Laver Arena as he raced Mr. Agud 6-2, 4-6. Meanwhile, Andrei Rublev rallied back from the brink to dump Holger Rune out of the Australian Open and book a second quarter-final at Melbourne Park courtesy of a lucky net cord on match point that's still a 6-3, 3-6, 6-3, 4-6, 7-6 cliffhanger. Fifth seed Rublev, he slipped 5-0 behind in the breaker but rode back to lead 9-7 before 9th seed Ron saved 2 match points in late twists. It took the net cord to separate them, with Rublev's final return clipping the net and popping over the third match point, leaving the Dan no chance. Caroline Garcia became the latest Australian Open upset after Magda Linard sent the French 4-seed packing. World number 45, Linard ensured Poland would be represented in the last 8 by stunning Garcia 7-6, 6-4. Of the same as Linard kept up her level and Garcia's unforced error count racked up, the normally placid Frenchwoman showing her frustration with a stream of expletives that earned her a code of violation, with Linard's younger compatriot and her hot favourite Iga Swiatek having departed in the fourth round on Sunday. Garcia's exit leaves Sabalenka and American Jessica Pegula as the only top 10 seeds in the quarterfinals. 30-year-old Linard will next take. Everton have-sacked manager Frank Lampard, British media reported on Monday, after a poor run of form that has left the Premier League club in relegation battle. Lampard's last game in charge was Saturday's 2-0 defeat at West Ham United, which kept them second bottom of the table on 15 points after 20 games, 2 points below the safety zone. The Merseyside team had been struggling under the former England international, having lost one a league game in October when they beat Crystal Palace 3-0 at home. Lampard was appointed by Everton in January 2022 after he managed Chelsea from 2019 to 2021 and Derby County in the second year in 2018 till 2019. The 44-year-old was sacked as Chelsea manager in January 2021, having returned to the West London club where he holds the goal-scoring record. He took over at Everton after the Merseyside club parted ways with Rafa Benitez, continuing the managerial revolving door at a club struggling to revive former glories. Everton next hosts leaders Arsenal on 4th of February, followed by the Merseyside derby at Liverpool on 30th of February. Poland will appoint former Portugal manager Fernando Santos as the new coach. The 68-year-old Santos, whose Portugal contract was terminated in December after the World Cup quarter-final exit in Morocco, was photographed at Warsaw Airport on Monday. Elaborating further on the matter, Polish FA PZPN President Cezary Kuleza said that a new national team manager will be presented later today. Fernando Santos, who was widely criticized for his tactics, became Portugal coach in 2014 and led the country in 109 matches. Santos led Portugal to success at Euro 2016 and the 2018 to 2019 Nations League with Cristiano Ronaldo as captain. At club level, he has managed Porto, AEK Athens, Sparta Panathinaikos, Sporting, Benfica, Boca, and he also had a 4-year spell as Greek coach. Former Poland coach Swiesław Missionowicz left at the end of December after the FA decided not to renew his contract after he has guided the team to the first World Cup knockout stage appearance in 36 years at the 2022 tournament in Qatar.
Johanan Hoki Piala Dunia Lelaki SAHIH 2023. kini berentap di peringkat suku akhir. Aksi saingan dan pukulan kencang terus diledakkan. Selasa, 24 Januari, Australia bertemu Spanyol 6.45 petang di saluran OK dan saluran sukan RTM. Belgium bertemu New Zealand 9.15 malam di saluran OK dan saluran sukan RTM. Saksikan juga secara penstreaman langsung di RTM Klik. Eksklusif hanya di RTM.
Alright, that wraps up updates at noon for today. In our top story, no official discussions on seat distribution between PH and BN for elections. Till then, I'm Nura Zamri. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful day.